Hello, Ryan here, and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all of the news from the week just past. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get on with it. This week, the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo comes to an end. We check in on the progress of the Vulture, the Banu Merchantman, the Hull A and C, and Starfarer. Plus, we have a ship-focused Star Citizen Live, answering all of our questions regarding all things ships. Not to be missed. So this week's Inside Star Citizen kicked off talking about the new MISC Odyssey. Now I won't go into too much detail here on Star Citizen Sunday, as I will be putting together a dedicated video looking further into the MISC Odyssey, so we will move straight on to the sprint report and leave that for another day. So the sprint report started looking at the Hull A, which is currently going through its exterior final art phase and grey box interior phase. Here you can see they are bringing it up to the current standards and metrics, and I am really loving the look of the exterior. Such a great shape, very amphibious in fact. But I can just imagine seeing all the various Hull series ships through A to E, populating trade lanes throughout the many systems of the verse. The interior as well is looking pretty damn nice. A great little solo hauler for anyone just making their first steps into hauling. The Hull C is a little further ahead with its interior going through final art phase. Here they are doing lighting passes, updating the interior scale for improved player and NPC traversal comfort, as well as testing some new building block screens for tractor beams and more. I love having this tractor beam camera view. I can just imagine seeing an alien creature crawling its way up the top of the ship and taking out the camera. Very spooky. Talking of tractor beams, the weapon content team has begun building the size 1, 2 and 3 tractor beams that will be able to be equipped to a variety of vehicles to add more functionality to ships like the 315, the Caterpillar and many more. Now this should add quite a bit of new options, especially when it comes to the cargo refactor, having other ships maybe helping to move or collect boxes that have been dropped by other ships like derelicts for example, or just simply helping load and unload mining saddlebags when the time comes. Jared also mentioned that there are some minor updates coming to the Starfarer as it gets ready to make its debut as the first refueling ship and the first refining vehicle too, so very happy to get that clarification that it will be the first ship to allow ship refining. He does say there are new additions to the exterior walkways that will allow it to take canisters of newly mined fuel from other ships for processing. So this, I think the way that he explains this has kind of opened up a few more questions. I'm assuming when Jared says canisters, he is referring to the saddlebags from ships like the Prospector and the Mole. And when he says newly mined fuel, I think he's just meaning mined minerals or metals, or even maybe something like Quantanium, as that is the only fuel type that we know of that can be mined. I think it was just badly worded, as Dan Truffin did mention that the refining variant of the Starfarer will have the ability to refine metals or minerals depending on the equipment that you have equipped. Hopefully we will get a lot more information on this soon to clear it up, but I personally feel it was maybe just a little misinterpreted. Now he does go on to say that there will be an interior update to the Starfarer as well, and they are looking at where they can fit that into the schedule best, but more about the Starfarer, or a little bit more on Star Citizen Live. Next, we checked in with the Drake Vulture, which is the solo salvaging vessel. This is currently going through its interior final art phase, and here we can see the habitation area and cockpit. Very excited to get the Vulture sometime next year. Now the RSI Scorpius heavy fighter has just entered early white box phase. They are working to ensure that all the current metrics are met and all components have locations. So far so good, they say, with no surprises. The Banu Merchantman has moved from concept phase to white box. Well, really early white box. As you can see here, it's kind of chunky. We also got to see the interior layout planning as well, with the med bay and so on, plus some pretty sexy early white box interior shots of many internal locations. Love it. Jared also said we will follow along with its journey from this day forwards, so do expect many more updates to come going forwards on the Banu Merchantman. And finally, there was this. So this week's Star Citizen Live was talking to many members of the various vehicle teams, answering all of our vehicular questions. It was another information overload episode. Gotta love it when we get these Star Citizen lives. Anyway, the first question is, what can you tell us about the 600i rework? Now, they say they are happy with the exterior, but the interior didn't line up with the gameplay intentions. So its interior has had a complete rework with huge amounts of features added, like docking collars, escape pods, external lifts. It'll also now have a med bay, individual private crew quarters, and each variant has different features inside them. So for example, the Exploration has the med bay, the armory, some exploration focused gameplay additions, no specifics there though, a proper vehicle cargo hold to hold bigger vehicles and more cargo, and a better flow throughout the ship as well, with the touring variant being more focused on luxury guest transport. Now, the modularity for the 600i was originally located in the middle. It is now moved to the rear to allow for more changes between the variants. They're not ready to show anything yet, but it's beginning to make headway. Now, very happy to hear that these changes are coming in, and I'm not even a 600i owner, so I can only imagine how those who do own one must be feeling after hearing this. Next question, is there any news on the Mole or the Prospector saddlebags on using them? Now, it is still planned as originally pitched. They will be detachable and compressible, but it's not this vehicle team that are working on them, it is the EUPU team. I think it was mentioned a while back that the saddlebags functionality will come online when the cargo refactor is done. It is a part of that whole system refactor, which is slated for 3.18, I think, at this time. Next question, Starfarer changes. What is happening? Now, it was recently mentioned that alongside refueling, a new Starfarer variant, I think a variant, will be capable of taking mined goods from other ships and refining them as well. So refining minerals and metals, not just gases. Now, currently they are working on the refueling and refining systems for the Starfarer, which doesn't impact the interior. It impacts more the bridge, the gantry and the fuel pods, but they are planning out how to fix the interior space, layout and flow. So right now they are actively working on refining and refueling, and once that's done they will start the process of updating its interior. Now, I am really happy to hear this. The Starfarer needs a lot of love. I really do like the Starfarer, and when we first saw it, it was the first big ship to get in game, but it certainly needs a lot of attention. And although I don't own one yet, it is likely one that I will look to attain when refueling does release, and then of course checking out the refinery variant as well. Next question is, what ships are next for the gold standard treatment? So the gold standard treatment is just bringing all the released flyable ships up to the current highest level of quality. Now, this includes implementing all the latest ship tech, plus doing a little rework where necessary for whatever reason, be that bringing the ship more in line with the most recent manufacturer style guides, metrics, things like adding airlocks, making sure the interactions work with the cockpit and so on, and of course component locations. Now, they didn't specify what the next ship will be, but I do know that the Cutlass Black is one that is next to receive it according to the progress tracker, and the Greycat PTV is also scheduled for its gold standard pass between January and February, so that will be quite interesting. Now, the 600i is underway with its gold standard right now, hence the changes, as well as the Retaliator now getting its pass. I really want to see the Avenger Titan and the Caterpillar get their passes, but I don't know when that's going to happen. Anyway, next question, when will the updated Vanduul ships come to the PU? Now, they say they're saving them for Squadron 42, so once the single player campaign is released, they will then make their way to the PU. And the same kind of goes for this Bearing P8AR rifle, which people were luckily finding in loot boxes when that first came in, but also the Idris, the Javelin. There is a few things that CIG are holding off to showcase in Squadron 42, which is understandable. Next question, will ship weapon ranges ever increase again based on weapon size? Now, yes, they say right now all the weapons have just been normalized to help with the ongoing general balance that begun in Alpha 3.14, so the last patch. They will be adding more differences going forwards. Size 5 weapons and above do have longer ranges already, but there will be more differences between all the weapons as they continue to balance. It is an ongoing thing that I think will take a few patches to get right. Will the cargo refactor include ship mass and handling? Now, long term it will do, but they're not sure if the cargo refactor affects the physical properties initially, so maybe not straight away, but this is part of the plan. Next question, will you increase ammunition for ballistics? So yes, they do want to increase the ammunition for ballistics, but first they want to bring an ammo management system in, and secondly they want to allow bigger ships to use bigger ammo boxes. It is currently more restrictive than they would like it to be. They want to tie the ballistic gameplay into the physical ammo gameplay, and once the physicalized ammo gameplay is done, they will then reevaluate this for ships. So he's talking about mag stripping and mag refilling. That is what he means when he says physical ammo gameplay, and that is scheduled to be done by late September next year. And this is the same system that will affect the FPS weapons as well, so being able to refill your magazines from old magazines and ones that have maybe 1 or 2 rounds in them. Next question, is there an update on the auto gimbal? Have you found a good use for it? Now they have decided what they would like to do with auto gimbals to find a place for them that doesn't take the skill out of ship combat, but they have not yet had time to prototype it and test it internally, so early next year they will begin trying that out. Next question, why does the Raft only have 3 containers when it looks like it could fit more? Now they settled on 3 because it makes it really quick and easy to pick up and fly away without hitting the other containers, and also it looked over cramped and flimsy when they tested it with more containers, so they decided 3 was the best option. Next question is, where is player-facing modularity? Now they say this is still planned, but it's being held up by the item port Cortex system. The Retaliator is still intended to be the first ship to get ship modularity, but they need work completing on the item port system first before they can get it in. So this is the ability to swap ship modules out and change the ship's functionality. It does sound like a bit of a big task, and it was also mentioned that some of the people who would be working on this system are actually working on server meshing, so I'm more than happy for them to remain on server meshing for the time being. Next question, physicalized damage, where is it? Now it is currently being worked on by the physics team at this moment. They are prototyping all the various aspects of physicalized damage and the physical materials. They have been doing some soft body deformation tests that John Crew says looks really cool, and this week they were looking at replacing the hit point based part attachments like wings for example. So with the new material based tensile strength attachments, the tensile strength of the joint is actually breaking off based on what and where it is getting hit, rather than the wings just depleting in health down to 0 and then snapping off like it does now. He said there is still a lot to do, and they are at the point where they have all these different prototypes and they are merging them together and looking into the best way to bring them in game. Now there is some parts of this in the engine already, but it's just disabled at this time, and currently it will generate the mass based off of the material and apply that to the ship, rather than just designer guesswork. So this new material work will be accurate based on the materials that go in to make up each ship. Now this is really exciting to me. I'm so happy that they are now prototyping and bringing this in. It's going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, changes to ships, in particular ship combat. No longer will it be based on simple hit points draining to 0 like in traditional games. It will be determined by what you're shooting, where you're shooting, at what range, angle and weaponry you're using as well. This will affect almost everything related to ships like combat, salvage and engineering and repair. So very happy to hear that this is underway, and hopefully we will see much of this in action on Inside Star Citizen as its own little feature, but most likely sooner it's just going to be in a sprint report. Next question, is there any updates on AI blades? Now the AI blades are tied into ship computers, and for the vehicle experience team it is on their roadmap. Firstly, it will require them to make the computer component itself, and then the blades will be added to modify ship functionality. So AI blades will be used to add functionality to your ship, like maybe slaving a turret to AI, amongst other things. I won't go into all the various types of blades that they have planned, but I will link a video of mine that I did last year in the description, which does talk about all the various potential AI blades that CIG are planning. What is going on with ship paint hex codes is the next question. Now this was mentioned a few years ago and was only an internal tool that was suggested that it could be given to players at some point for a way for us to paint our ships. However, it was not an official "this is what we will do," just a suggestion. Since then, the idea has now shifted to allow players to go to locations like Cousin Crows, for example, and buy paint and then get their ships painted there. Whether it's by using hex codes, swatches, sliders, RGB, for example, they don't know yet. The goal right now for ship paints is that they still want players to paint their ships. They do want us to pick what colour we want, and they are still working out how to allow for exclusivity. But they don't want to just simply lock off particular colours, as it can get very messy. Maybe something like certain finishes, stencil patterns, that kind of thing. They might be exclusive, but as they say, they have not yet decided. They did say there is a lot more they can still do to add variation and options, but there's lots to work out still. Firstly, they want to create a tool that does what they want it to for the developers, and after they are happy with it, they will then figure out maybe a player-facing version of this, and the same kind of goes for interior customization and colouring as well. They need to find the best way that they can use it, and then figure out the best way for players. Next question, is racing dead? And no is the answer. Everything that they have done for the flight model, and all the things that are to come for the flight model, will have an effect on racing, so it's not dead. And actually, one of the members of the ship's team loves racing in real life, and Star Citizen racing is very important to him. Next question is, do you have a list of the various operator modes that you would like to add? Now, they will expand this when they need to. In the future, they maybe will bring an EMP or a quantum enforcement device operator mode, and possibly salvage operator modes as well. It's a very useful method for getting gameplay hooked up and in-game quick. Do you have an update on the armoured Carrick cockpit? Now, apparently they were talking about that this week, and are fairly confident that they can now do this, as they have the tech to do it now, which is the animated ship states and items. They just need resources to free up so that they can give it a go, and hopefully all goes to plan and we can get that soon. Someone asked about windshield wipers, will we ever get them? And they say, with it being 900 years in the future, they may find a different way to deal with rain. Currently, there are a lot of bugs with the ship canopies, and they're not doing what they're supposed to, and I can concur with that one. Any love for the Sabre Raven? Now, the Raven being a separate model to the base Sabre meant that it didn't get the gold standard pass at the same time as the base Sabre. It's not forgotten about, but no idea when it will get that gold standard pass. The MSR missing its front, or the Mercury Star Runner, sorry, missing its front entrance still. Any progress on this? If you don't remember, they did say that they realised, or it was a bit of an oversight, not having a second entrance to the MSR, so they will add one to the front of the ship, but there's no progress on that yet. Next question is there an update on escape pods or ejection seats with parachutes? And nope, nothing yet on that either, but they do keep pushing Richard Tyra for some form of parachute, but no luck thus far. So next question is simply Polaris ? Now, it has had its full interior concept work done. They have the interior fully figured out. There will be changes to the loadout and updates to bring it more up to snuff. So big changes, and it's now ready for development once resources free up to actively build it. The hangar, they say, is now to metrics and can fit many more ships inside, similar to the Odyssey, they said. Plus, the ship has gotten a little bigger, with capital ship components like the power plant, coolers, and shield generators. So big changes, and great to hear that it's now ready for development, but again, it's about resources and when they have members of those teams finishing the work they're on now, or the ships that they're working on now, and then moving on to the Polaris, for example. The Corsair ? Now they're looking at it right now, white boxing this week and next week, so work has begun on it. Excellent, I am a proud owner of the Corsair, so great hearing that it's begun. Banu Merchantman ? Recently, they have begun the white box, which is all they have to say, as we did see on Inside Star Citizen, looking very blocky, but the work has started. Now, the Perseus, the Apollo, the Kraken, the Ranger, the Endeavour, and the Starliner, none of these are currently in active development, so nothing more to say about them, unfortunately. So that was this week's Star Citizen Live, another chunky episode, full of ship information this time. Some great things are happening, but we must move on. So also this week, the latest lore post was a clean shot titled Argo Advocate, which just reminded me that I am yet to read this. The Intergalactic Aerospace Expo is over, so I hope you all had a great time, and welcome to those of you who are new to the verse. As usual, if you have any questions about Star Citizen, feel free to join me over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother and ask them there. I will be more than happy to answer what I can. And finally, the roadmap was updated, which I have covered in a separate video linked in the description below. So that brings us to the end of the show. If you do enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Also, I am able to do this thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. If you appreciate what I do and would like to help make it even better from as little as $1 a month, All of the links are provided below.